All right, so I'm going to go through this video really quickly. We're only going to go through like one or two problems. And since I don't have a calculator in front of me, I can't show you how to do it. And I'm going through the steps by memory. But remember, if you're asked to maximize or to minimize, what you need to find is your vertex. And if you have a Texas Instrument, so you have a Texas Instrument, the steps is first, you need to press the Y is equal to button, and then you will need to graph it. Right? And that graph button is in the top right-hand corner. After you graph it, the next step is you need to zoom. So you will press the zoom button. I'm not sure if, it's not a second. You just press the zoom button. And after you do that, you will scroll down. And you will look for the zoom fit. And once you see the zoom fit, you press that and it will automatically, most of the time, not necessarily, but it will give you your graph zoomed in and already showing your vertex. If it doesn't do that and you don't see your vertex, then you will just need to do zoom out and just keep zooming out until you see it. But zoom fit will usually show you. Right? Then after you do that, you will then press second trace, which is your calculate button, and then it will ask you for what you want to calculate. If you're doing your maximum, you will do your maximum. If you're doing your minimum, you do your minimum. Right? Then after that, it will say left bound. And remember, you just need your cursor to be on the left-hand side of your vertex. It doesn't matter if it's here or anywhere, but you just pick one point that's on the left-hand side of your vertex, and then you will press enter. When you press enter, it brings you to the next step, which is your right bound. Right? Then after your right bound, you will then move your cursor, same thing, to you're on the right-hand side of your vertex. It doesn't matter where, just make sure it's on the right-hand side. Then you press enter. Then it will say guess. Doesn't matter, just press enter right away. And what we're doing when we do this is we're creating this region that we're looking for the maximum value. And after you do that, it will give you an X and a Y value for what it's equal to as your maximum. And then we generate those points to answer our questions anytime it's saying how long it takes to get our maximum value or what is your maximum value or profit, we would then do our Y. All right, so that's using the Texas Instrument. Now let me show you, talk about doing the Casio. All right, so the Casio is a little bit easier. Your first step, you will go to your menu and you will graph. Once you type in your graph, you just press draw. That will be, I believe, the top right-hand button. After you draw it, then it doesn't even matter if your graph is in it or not. All you do after this is you will press the G solve button. I'm not sure if that is F5 or maybe F6 or F4, I'm not sure, but it says G solve above one of the F buttons. And then after that, it will ask your maximum, your minimum, so depending on what you're solving for, you press that button. And then for this one, you don't really need to do anything. It will just calculate it for you. However, if it does say error, then you will want to zoom out or zoom out. So you will press the zoom out button and you will just zoom out until you can see your graph. And then you will press your max or your min. So if it gives you an error, just keep zooming out until it does appear. All right, and then it will give you your X and Y value, and then that will be generating how to solve for it. All right, so it's a lot easier with your Casio. Let's go through solving your equations. All right, so when you're solving your equations, the questions could give you what the speed or what the height was equal to and saying solve how long it took to reach the speed or the height, or it could be saying when it hits the ground. So whenever we're doing that, we just need to solve. When we're doing our Texas Instrument, the first thing that you will press is you will press your apps button. Then the second thing that you will do is you will scroll down till you get to your Polynomial Simulator. I'm not sure if I'm writing the correct numbers, but it will look like PLY or it will look something like this. Then you will press the next button. The only thing is make sure that your 2 is darkened. So make sure that your dark squares around the number 2. Right? And it's not somewhere else. So make sure that your 2 is darkened and you press next. Then at 4, it will usually give you this a2x squared plus a1x plus a0. And what you need to do now is to substitute or find what your a2 is equal to, what your a1 is equal to, and what your a0 is equal to. You do not put the variable. If this is 5x squared plus 2x minus 4, then your A1 or A2 will be 5. Your A1 will be 2. Your A0 will be -4. You type them in, you press solve, and it gives you your answer. All right, so just look at what is in front of your letters. A2, A1, A0. It flat out gives you that in your calculator. So it's really not hard to know what you're typing in. You just have to match it with your specific equation. Yes, it's a little bit different because it says A2 and A1 and A0 instead of A, B, and C, but it's the same thing. All right, now let's talk about doing this for the Casio. All right, so for the Casio, you will press your menu button. And after you press your menu button, you will go to the part that says EQUA. All right, then it will give you an option, F1, F2, and F3. I forget what the options are, but you press the one that says polynomial. Then your next part, it says degree. And it will give you an option, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You press whatever button is associated with our degree 2 because we're dealing with quadratics. So you're going to press 2. Then the nice thing about this is it will say ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Same thing. If it is 5x squared plus 2x minus 4, what you will do is you will say a is equal to 5, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to negative 4. If you get an error, that means you put minus 4 and not negative 4. And the calculator is saying, well, what is in front of this 4 for us to minus? Do not put the variable, right? And it's negative 4, and it will give you the answer. Right? That's what you need to be able to do using a calculator. Those two things. If you can do that, then it's just being able to read or differentiate what they're asking for in a question, which I'm going to go through one or two of them with you right now. All right, so I'm just going to talk about what you're actually solving for. So this one, it says how many bicycles should be assembled per day to maximize the profit. So this is telling me that I need to find the vertex. So you will plug this into your calculator and you will find the vertex. If memory, let me just get this real quick. All right, and when you do your vertex, you will get the answer to be 25 and 425. So if you're not getting that, then that means you're doing something wrong. It means you're plugging in the wrong equation or something. So then it says how many bicycles should be assembled to maximize their profit. So for A, it's asking how many bicycles, and it's telling us that X is bicycles. So that means our X value will be the answer. So this will be 25 bicycles. Right? If you're not sure how to find your vertex, just go back into the beginning of the video for your specific calculator. For B, it says, what is the maximum profit? So once again, when we see maximum, I know it's our vertex. It tells us that our P represents our profit. So then our Y value substituted we substituted P of X in for Y, so that means our Y is our profit. So it's 425 euros is our maximum profit. And for C, it says, what is the loss made if no bicycles are assembled? So when we assemble no bicycles, what number represents nothing? 0. So that means that X is equal to 0. So we will just plug it in. P of X is, sorry, not P of X, but P of 0. And remember, that's not saying P times 0, but it's just substituting 0 in for X, is equal to negative 0 squared plus 50 times 0 minus 200. Well, 0 times anything is 0, and 0 plus 0 is 0. So our profit with 0 bicycles is equal to negative 200 euros. So that means when you are making 0 bicycles, you're losing $200 a day. All right, that is it for this question. We're going to do one more probably. If you have any other questions, just please reach out and ask for help. All right, so then for this number 5, this one's a little bit different. So I'm going through this one. The first one, it says find the time. So it says a stone was thrown from the top of a cliff 60 meters above sea level. The height of the stone after t seconds is given by this function. Find the time it takes for the stone to reach the maximum height. Once we see the word maximum, we know we're dealing with our vertex. All right, so then for this one, you will end up getting a vertex of 280. So since it says t seconds and t replaced our variable x, that means that t represents our x. And this height represents our y. So find the time it takes to reach its maximum height. So since we're talking about time, we're talking about our x value. So that means it takes 2 seconds for us to reach our maximum height. Now the next one, it says, what is the maximum height reached by the stone? Once again, we know that that means it's our vertex. Anytime you see maximum or minimum, it's our vertex. And since our y represents our height, our answer for B is the y value of our vertex. So that will then be 80 meters. And then for C, this one says, how long did it take for the stone before the stone struck the water? So it's being thrown from a cliff, and then it's going down and hitting the water. Well, what is our height when it hits the water? our h would be equal to 0. So we would then need to set this negative 5t squared plus 20t plus 60 equal to 0, and then we would solve for our t. So when you plug this into your calculator, you will get the answers of 6 or negative 2. However, one of these does not make sense because we cannot travel back in time. So your final answer would just be 6 seconds. So it took you 6 seconds, or it took the stone 6 seconds for it to strike or hit the water. Right? That's what I'm going to go through in this video. If you have any other questions, please work on the problems I gave you in class. If you have any questions, just reach out.